I've always kind of been a guy that said, like, oh, it's cool when they do, like, weekly episode releases because it keeps you on edge. It keeps you on the edge of your seat and, really excited and anticipating the next episode for next week. I was like that until today. I hate you, Disney. Was I was having a good time. I was like, oh, this is a great episode. I'm so excited. Oh, this is great. I'm having a great time. Oh, the cliffhanger was great or whatever. Oh, what's going to happen? And then the credits start rolling. And now I have to wait another miserable 7 days just to wait to see what happens. You see, this is why we don't get good things anymore, man. We just gotta wait to, we just gotta keep waiting. It's fucking patience, man. What if I get hit by a car tomorrow? Well, I won't fucking know then. Because I might be in hell. Oh, I know. And this might be hell. I don't know. Hey guys, how is everybody doing? And tonight we got episode 4 of Daredevil Born Again season 2 with the title Gloves Off. Now, last week I talked about both episodes 2 and 3, because they both released on the same day. So go watch my video on that if you haven't already, so you know what my thoughts are going to be on this, which you'll probably have an idea. And so you know what's going on in the show if you know haven't been watching. There's something in my eye. I'm going to itch that. And you before I begin, once again, there will be spoilers in this video. I don't know why I have to say it when when I talk about these episodes. I do go into full spoilers, because what's the point of not spoiling it when why are you watching this video if you don't want to be spoiled? So it's not my fault, I guess. But whatever. But yeah, here are my thoughts on episode 4 of Daredevil Born Again season 2. So in the last episode, we ended it off with Karen and Matt driving away from the Northern Star, and after the whole escaping sequence, and after that cool one-shot action sequence, we pick up after Wilson Fisk and the head guy of the ABTF guys of blowing up the Northern Star and basically framing it on the vigilantes, calling it a terrorist attack. And in this episode, we pick up and seeing Bullseye for the first time of this season and of this show. No, that's a lie. I don't know why I said that. This is the first time we see him of this season, and it's really cool to see him come back because we didn't see him yet. We had not seen him prior to this episode, I don't think. Actually, that's a lie. We see him in the church, but this is like where we really get to see him, except for like, one shot sequences where either he's saving Matthew or in a church or killing two random people in an elevator. This is the first time we really get to see Bullseye in action, I guess you can say. So we pick up with him just sitting in an apartment building, doing his little routine, making eggs, doing laundry. Seems like a cool workout routine, which pro guy myself who works out as well. Um, and then we see him, being friendly to his neighbors, seeing him be friendly. And then he goes to this little diner, sitting there, and he's like, you know what? I'll have a milkshake. And, it really does show that this guy can use anything as a weapon because he uses a straw to shoot toothpicks at people. When I was younger, I would do that. I actually would, and I kind of got in trouble. I didn't poke anyone's eye out. I would just shoot it at like their nipple because I was a weirdo like that at the time. What am I kidding? I still like nipples, but we picked that we kind of have a little sequence where he just drinks a milkshake and he calls 911 and he says, "I just seen Frank Castle going to this diner," which I don't know why you had to lure him saying Frank Castle. I don't know why you could have just said Bullseye, but beyond me, I guess it was just a cool reference to Frank Castle, I guess. But what do I know? Um, so he calls them in, he finishes their milkshake, and then the whole SWAT team comes in. They're like looking around, and they see Bullseye's at the counter, and then he just kills them. And a very cool action sequence and a very cool little sequence to show off Bullseye and to show like that he's one of the good guys now because Bullseye has always been a villain when it comes to this show because he was introduced to season 3 of Daredevil and he was basically the main villain throughout that whole season, which is why it's probably considered the best season of the show. And then in season 1, he's pretty much a villain again, trying to kill Fisk. He killed Foggy, and in this season, he seems to be a good guy, especially after saving Matt. He's killing a bunch of SWAT teams that work for Fisk, and especially after that awesome sequence in the diner, that whole great opening sequence in the diner with Bullseye, and he's just killing all these guys in creative ways. He threw a lobster at one guy to kill him, which I thought was pretty funny, and he's shooting toothpicks at guys with a straw, like I mentioned. And he's being Bullseye. He's killing them with weapons or whatever. And I don't usually say this, but he was pretty much aura farming that whole fucking time because there's literally a part where they're shooting at him and he just fucking hits the knives up and like he just slams on the table and the knives go up and he just grabs them and throws them like he's literally just aura farming, and that's what makes Bullseye cool in this episode. He was really fucking awesome in that whole sequence, and I loved it. That felt like good old Daredevil stuff again, like from the original show. So that was a really cool sequence and a very cool opening. And moving on from that, we don't see him for like maybe a good 15-ish 20 minutes, maybe a little bit longer than that, and we kind of go off and see the other characters that we've been following throughout the show, like Matthew and Karen and Wilson Fisk and his whole team, and what his plan is about his whole boxing thing, which I'll be getting into here shortly. um we see Matt and Karen and this whole group that escaped in the last episode. They're like hiding out in this little abandoned building and, kind of regrouping. Daredevil's trying to recruit swordsmen to be part of this whole, you know, team that go against Fisk. But then they kind of write swordsman off, it seems, because he says, like, oh, I've been in a cell for nearly 6 months. I need to shower. I need to burn these clothes. And he has a nice little conversation with Daredevil. And it's just like, you're no longer a vigilante or a hero. You are a symbol of hope now, which I really like that little sequence, which is true now. What's going on? He is basically a symbol of hope now. And I really like that sequence. And I really like Swordsman. I talked about him in the last video. I talked about I in both episodes that he appeared in last week. I really enjoyed his character. And if this is the last time we see him, it's kind of a shame because I really like his character. I really enjoyed what they were doing with him. And this is my first time seeing the character, so maybe I'll have to watch Hawkeye just to see him. And I wouldn't be against getting about him getting his own show because it seems like any character can get their own show. Looking at you, She-Hulk. Ugh. But yeah, I wouldn't be against if he got his own show, and honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if he does, and I would be all for it. This is a character I really enjoyed, and if this is the last time we see him, and it's kind of unfortunate. He's a really fun character, and I really like his actor. So that was kind of a shame to see him possibly get written off the show, but who knows? Maybe he'll have a surprise at the end of the season. Who knows? But that has a nice little moment, and then Karen and Matt kind of figure out, oh, Bullseye killed all these people at the bar, not the bar, diner, excuse me, and then Matt goes to investigate it, and then we kind of cut to Fisk and his whole SWAT team basically, finding out about the vigilantes escaping, kind of regrouping, and Fisk is like, I need you to handle this, basically. And, they have, like, he has another conversation with Matthew Lillard's character. I believe his name is Charlie. And, I'm really intrigued to see what's going to happen with Charlie because he very clearly gets under Fisk's nerves, where he just is pissed off every time he sees him or even talks to him. And there's like a scene where he kind of scares him because henchman like kills one of the guys that works for Charlie, and he's just like, next time you want to talk to me, you call me first or whatever. And he's like kind of sitting there all bummed out. He goes, well, shit. That kind of made me laugh a little bit because it's Matthew Lillard. So I'm kind of intrigued to see where they're gonna go with that. Yeah, I'm interested because I feel like it's not gonna end well for Charlie knowing Fisk. So yeah, that's gonna be interesting. And then we find out that Matthew like tricks these SWAT teamers because he's dressed as one of them. He goes, "I need you guys to leave, or else I'm gonna basically call my guys and make you leave." Excuse me. Which why did they believe this one dude? I have no fucking idea, but whatever, continuity. And kind of, and he finds this coin of the from the church that he went to as a kid, which we saw a lot of in the original series, especially in season 1 and like the majority of season 3 when he was living there and recovering after the events of the Defenders or whatever. And it was a really bittersweet moment to see Matt go back to that church. It kind of has that like nostalgia factor, which a lot of shows and a lot of movies, and hell, even the recent Resident Evil game were doing like nostalgia bait or kind of doing something like that, which I wouldn't necessarily call it nostalgia bait because it didn't necessarily feel like that at all. But it just felt like a cool little moment of tying it back to the original series and kind of making this feel like old Daredevil again. So that was a really cool moment to see Matt go back to his church and have flashbacks of him as a kid in there and him in season 3 when he was training and recovering. And he said like a prayer that he used to say all the time as a kid, which I don't really recognize it or nor remember it. So I guess shame on me. Maybe there was a better like a better moment there that I ended up just missing, but whatever, I guess. And he basically questions the priest. He basically fucking threatens this priest who's a man of God, who Daredevil's a man of God, by the way, and Matthew's a man of God. He follows him, but he basically threatens this fucking priest, which I'm pretty sure is a sin. Is considered a sin, but whatever. I guess all the things Daredevil does is a sin. He basically beats the shit out of people for a hobby. And there's this really great fight sequence, which we get to see Bullseye again. This is the first time we see him since the beginning of the episode. And a great fight sequence occurs between Daredevil and Bullseye, which this season has been doing a lot better than season one. I brought it up last week, I believe, where I said that this season is doing a lot better with its action and fight sequences. And the Daredevil and Bullseye fight really shows that and is a huge example of that for me because that whole fight sequence, it was very short and very subtle. It wasn't anything insane, but it was a very entertaining fight that reminded me a lot of the old Daredevil show, and I really like that. That just shows the improvement that that it had over season one, and I really like that. And there's a cool little sequence where. Bullseye's like, "Oh, I'm the good guy," but he has literally a fucking hostage at gunpoint in this fucking sequence. Like, yeah, you're totally a good guy, but whatever. And keep it on track with that. I don't really necessarily know how to feel of Bullseye being a good guy or an anti-hero. I guess you could call him an anti-hero. Now, I believe maybe in the comics that's how he is, but I could be wrong. But the depictions I've seen of him is just a full-on black guy, bad guy, and like a full on villain. So maybe this is in the comics, and maybe I'm just not a huge comic book nerd like others. And or maybe this is just a subtle change that they made. And I don't know how to feel about that, especially with him killing Foggy in the first season. Like it's kind of hard for me to like him when he killed a beloved character, but at the same time, Bullseye is such an entertaining character, and the actor who I forget his name, he does such a good job in the role and the acting job to where it's kind of hard not to like him or find him entertaining. And his actor has even come out and said that he wants a Marvel special presentation on Bullseye like Punisher's getting here in May. And honestly, I'm all for that. I would love to see a Bullseye spinoff, especially after watching this episode, which is a very bullseye episode. That's basically what this whole episode was just focused on him. And I'm all for it, but you know, continuing on what happens in the episode, and a cool little fight sequence happens between them, and he escapes, and then we cut to basically what has been the most talked about thing about this season ever since the teaser came out and ever since the show's been getting advertised. We've been seeing Fisk box a lot in a lot of the advertisements, and a lot of fans have been wondering what the fuck is going on. And I'm part of that group. I'm like, what is going on? Like, why the fuck is Fisk fighting? Like, what is the story behind here? And they don't really give you an answer. They basically just tell you Fisk is boxing this dude for money to make New York better. Okay, whatever. It genuinely feels as if they just wanted to have Fisk box to show off like his fighting because maybe we don't even see him fight in the season. Who knows what they'll do with him? It honestly felt like it was like, oh, we don't have Fisk fighting all that much, like showing off his power like he usually does in every season. Let's have him box. It felt like they were just sitting there in the writing room, like, oh yeah, what should we have Fisk do this season? Oh, let's put him in a boxing match, and this other dude's like, why? That doesn't make any sense because it would be fucking awesome. It's like, well, we've got to have a real reason. Money, I guess. We'll say he's fighting for fucking money. That's basically the reason. And it's cool to see him in a boxing match or whatever, but cool. Let's say he's fighting for money. Sure, that's the reason. And in that boxing match, he fucks that dude up for his first boxing match. And that dude, and I believe the guy said he has like a 30-2 record, which is pretty fucking good. Um, he fucked him up, and I'm pretty sure he's dead. I'm pretty sure at the end of that fight, I'm pretty sure Fisk killed that dude. I'm pretty sure he's fucking dead because he was like twitching, and like everyone was like in shock, kind of uncomfortable, and he's like just standing around celebrating, holding the belt up, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure you killed that dude because Fisk is a powerful dude. Like he's been in real fights, and he's fucked people up. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's dead. So, and then that whole little sequence happens, and we get the payoff of Fisk boxing. We get the long awaited fight, the long awaited event, basically. And then Bullseye comes back after, basically running away from Daredevil, which, okay. Um, and then he comes in and he basically just starts killing a bunch of SWAT team. Like he kills more of the SWAT team, and then he goes after Fisk, tries to kill him, but then not Bullseye, Daredevil stops him. Like from the end of season one where Bullseye tries to shoot him, but then Matt jumps in the way. It's kind of similar to that, but then, he stops Fisk from shooting Bullseye. He basically just launches Bullseye out of a fucking window to stop him, kind of like Spider Man. It reminded me a lot of Spider Man. And this is something that they've been building up for a while, but I didn't think they would do it so soon in the season or in the show. Um, while that was all going on, one of Bullseye's main targets was Vanessa. We all know his reasons. She basically tricked him. It's like, if you kill Foggy, I'll give you your freedom. He didn't get it. He killed Foggy, but he never got his freedom. And, he wants revenge for it, basically. And he wants her dead because she tricked him and made him kill someone he didn't really want to kill. He just wanted freedom. And that was one of his main targets. But, it looked like Fisk and Daredevil might have stopped him. But at the end of the episode, a piece of glass is kind of just sticking out of her brain a little bit, out of her head, and she collapses. My first thought was like, oh, she's not gonna be dead. She's gonna be fine. She'll go to the hospital. But from the way the episode ends and the way it's shot and acted and performed, it seems that Vanessa might have actually died. And I was expecting it for sure, but I was not expecting it so soon. So it kind of caught me by surprise. And at the beginning of the video, when I'm talking about like, oh, I fucking hate that was a cliffhanger. It leaves you on a cliffhanger of Vanessa being dead and Fisk being heartbroken. And basically, I'm gonna have to wait till next week to get the approval that Vanessa's fucking dead. And that was a hell of a way to end the episode. And that was a hell of a way to, reveal that and, build up to the next episode. Because what a fucking episode for one, and just what a shocker for an ending as well. So yeah, that kind of happened. But in the end, guys, after this episode and, my excitement levels constantly going up after each episode, I feel like I can confidently say that this is the best Daredevil season we've gotten since season three. And, we've only gotten two seasons of this show. The first season was kind of a letdown, but this season has been absolutely amazing. And we're only four episodes in, and I cannot wait to see what the other episodes bring and how this season wraps up and how it builds up to season three of you wanting more. Because even with these cliffhangers of these four episodes, it leaves you wanting more and wanting to see what happens next. And this honestly feels like that old Daredevil show again. It feels like Netflix Daredevil again because one thing I forgot to mention in the video is, how violent this show is and how, mature it is with like the mafia, like this mafia like stuff going on with Fisk having people getting killed or whatever. You know, it's honestly shocking to see a Disney show kind of like this because when it comes to Disney, they're pretty sensitive. And, after Deadpool Wolverine came out and, all these mature shows, it's kind of surprising to see that this is a Disney show for how violent it's been. And, it's not as violent as the Netflix show because that was pretty fucking violent. But, just for a Disney show, it's surprising. And I'm very happy to say that because I have been loving the show and I've been loving this season. This is the best season of a comic book show I've seen since the Penguin. And we haven't got really many, I guess, but it's been phenomenal. It keeps me wanting more and it keeps me wanting to see what happens next. And I am all for this season. I am very excited to see where it goes. I have been loving every minute of it. And this episode was amazing. I fucking loved it. I absolutely loved it. In the end, I just loved it. So I am so happy to say that Daredevil is officially back. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this episode down in the comments below, and we shall talk about it. Did you like this episode? Did you not like this episode? Are you enjoying the season so far, or are you a little bit disappointed? Let me know in the comments below, and we shall talk about it. If you like this video, like it. If you love it, subscribe to the bell notification so you will get notified for all my latest videos, and for more of my Daredevil episode review series coming in the next few weeks. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you on the next video.